The medieval period, or the Middle Ages, spans almost 1,000 years between 400 and 1300 AD. This was a time when major art movements took place. New art genres were created. Different artistic traditions were meshed, including styles from the Middle East and Africa. And notable artists created some stunning masterpieces that would inspire the early Renaissance. The medieval period encompassed 8 major artistic movements, which include Byzantine, Islamic, Viking, Carolingian, Celtic, Ottonian, Romanesque, and Gothic art. The Middle Ages were also a time when Christianity was flourishing across Europe, and this meant a rejection of older pagan ways of life. Roman Emperor Constantine gained many followers after his public proclamation that Christianity, a religion which had been heavily persecuted in its early years, would now be tolerated. Medieval art reflects the sweeping popularity of Christianity. The medieval era saw the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, which is one reason why Emperor Constantine moved the Roman capital from Rome to Byzantium, which we know as present-day Istanbul. Constantine's Byzantine Empire relied on the stability of the East while maintaining ample trade routes with the West. A new sect of Christianity, Catholicism, gained prominence in the West, but the artists of the region followed the lead of their Eastern Byzantine peers in terms of artistic style. One of the key points to remember about art of this age is that due to concerns about the Bible's prohibition of graven images, medieval artists avoided sculptures in the round, which could be viewed from all sides, such as Roman busts. Instead, artists tended towards one-dimensional and somewhat abstract art. During the decline of the Western Roman Empire, religious mosaics and frescoes made their appearances in medieval churches, cathedrals, and basilicas. Medieval art involved a fusion of Eastern and Western cultures, including Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. The earliest medieval art, dating from 500 to 800 AD, is best known for the tessellated or repeated patterns of Islam and the Vikings' bejeweled migratory art. Islamic art reflected Muslim ideas of heaven as a natural paradise and featured many floral patterns as well as repeated geometric forms and elegant calligraphy. The Vikings excelled in woodwork and metalwork featuring interlaced patterns and abstract depictions of animals. As they were a migratory people, most of their art was portable. The Vikings are known for their fibulae, or golden brooches, and one of the most famous of these is the Ostrogothic golden eagle fibula, an abstract eagle brooch with a circular center and a geometric arrangement of precious gems. During the Carolingian period, between the late 8th and early 10th centuries, Emperor Charlemagne sponsored the construction of many extravagant churches and monasteries. He also lavished churches with gifts of liturgical items for use in Christian services, such as chalices, incense censers, and crosses made of gold and silver covered with pearls and gems. Although elaborate metal art had been common in the past, Charlemagne deliberately challenged the Byzantine iconoclasts of the late 700s by encouraging depictions of the human form, which could be viewed as idols in the liturgical art of his time. Charlemagne was also responsible for spreading literacy among nobles throughout his reign. He stressed the importance of books and reading, which had been neglected for many years, and his views led to the development of the popular Carolingian minuscule script. Illuminated manuscripts, or elaborately illustrated books, with covers made of precious metals and covered with jewels, were popular with monks in medieval times. The best-known illuminated manuscripts come from Celtic artists who used many of the same designs found in their legacy of metalwork in the intricate knot-like paintings in their books. Wealthy families owned their own illuminated manuscripts, which were called the Book of Hours, and were used for their daily religious activities. As demand grew, artists were encouraged to show off their skills in creating these manuscripts, which were needed for universities and monasteries, as well as wealthy patrons. Geometric patterns from Coptic Egypt and the Anglo-Saxon fascination with animal art began influencing Celtic style in the 7th century. Some of the best examples of early Middle Age art that we have today are found in illuminated manuscripts. The Book of Durrow, the Book of Kells, the Lindisfarne Gospels, and the Ebbo Gospels are 4 of the best-known manuscripts. During the Ottonian period, named after King Otto the Great, and his son and grandson Otto II and III, the cultural revival that Charlemagne had spearheaded influenced new art that took on an increasingly Germanic style. By 1000 AD, Romanesque architecture had begun to gain followers in France and quickly spread all over Europe as cities and their monasteries gained more and more power and wealth. Romanesque architecture was characterized by semicircular Roman arches, thick stone walls, and separated spaces according to function. Cathedrals were bigger than ever before and were richly decorated with vibrant paintings and figurative sculptures. Relief work in these cathedrals tended to be bigger than ever before, and artists explored new ways to make them more and more imposing. Every church had impressive frescoes depicting religious scenes, and this became almost mandatory for churches and cathedrals of the day. Many paintings featured horrible monsters and beasts battling it out with heroes, or amongst themselves. By the early 12th century, Gothic art had emerged in France. Gothic art was more realistic than previous medieval styles, and it also incorporated striking and elegant new designs into traditional art, which made this new style distinctive and popular. One of the key changes was in architecture, where it brought the integration of sculpture into buildings, like saint-shaped pillars and angels floating on window frames. The new design that Gothic architects adopted allowed them to free up space for stained glass windows. As a result, some spectacular stained glass work was created and installed in many churches. The most common themes depicted the Virgin Mary and Christ Child motif. As 1300 AD drew to a close, leading medieval artists like Giotto began searching for a way to set their work apart from the older Byzantine style. As a result of these artists' experimentations, the Renaissance style, which produced such masters as Michelangelo, Da Vinci, and Raphael, was born.